Hey everybody, welcome to the Five Tool Show. We haven't done one in a little while, but we got Ben Moss on tonight, vintage collector specializing in St. Louis Cardinals and the Gashouse Gang. And it's the Five Tool Show with the two Joes. So I'm going to ask you the first thing that we always ask everybody, and just give us your story on how you got into collecting. And after that, tell us more about the player you were housing. That's pretty cool. We started talking about that before the show.
So I got into collecting through my father. So when I was born in 1982, he was a collector growing up, but he started buying me sets. And he of course everybody in the 80s, one of the sets that he bought that he really didn't know what he was, what was going to be was the 86 basketball Fleer set.
Wow.
So he bought me that set when I was little. And so I just remember going to card shows at a young age. And I always was interested in it. And then when I was in high school, a really good friend of mine, he was a collector whenever he was little, specifically autographs and older players. And he gave me his whole collection for my graduation present. And so he didn't have any children. So that sort of stuck a spike into me too. So from now on, I've been nothing but vintage, and I've had to sort of narrow my focus on specifically 1930s, 1920s, mostly 30s Cardinals and whatnot. But just to answer your other question, so here I live in Paducah, Kentucky, and so we have a summer league here every year. And it's collegiate summer league. The Paducah Chiefs is our team here, and every year they have host families, and so we are one of those host families that allows a college kid to stay with us in our basement. I have a wife, 3 kids, so we don't see a whole lot of them because they're always practicing or going to games. But the boy that we housed this summer, he's probably been the best. Braden Frasman's his name. Shout out to Braden. He's watching. He might watch this. But he is just committed to go to NC State, and he's hoping to get drafted. He's going to play in the Major League Baseball Summer League, Draft Summer League. And so we're super excited for Braden. And remember that name because I think he's going to be special. I mean, the kid's legit. And so he's the best player I think the Chiefs have ever had. So we're excited and we enjoy it, and we go to the games. Chiefs played an old-time stadium from the 1930s called Brooks Stadium. It's from the Cardinals in the 30s, single A, and so it's an old-timey stadium. So not a very big one, but an old-timey one. So we try to go to most of the home games to support the player we house and sort of be his family for the summer. A lot of them come from pretty decent distance, so they don't get to see their family a whole lot, and they're out playing every night. So just sort of try to be a good influence still.
It's really cool about the history, down there, and with the stadium, those old stadiums, a lot of them, have so much history of players, and a lot of them, and they, you think about it through the years, there's only a few that have survived the times, so for that to still be there and to be able to be played on, that's awesome. But speaking about NC State, I live about 20 minutes from NC State. So if he goes, if he goes there, I'll definitely go check him out.
Yeah, Braden Frasman's his name, and he's like I said, if he doesn't get drafted where he wants to get drafted, he's going to go there. But he's a stud, man. He's gonna tear it up.
What position does he play?
Plays right field. He can play left, but he's a right fielder.
Nice.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's cool. I've been out in Cary, North Carolina, quite a bit whenever I was in college. So that area is such a nice area.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, we're about 20, 25 minutes from Cary, but yeah, beautiful, beautiful place. Raise kids. It's a great place to live. Great for kids. Great school. So yeah, really nice. I wanted to ask you. So,
go ahead.
No, when you were a kid growing up, who was your guy? Who was your favorite player growing up?
Okay, so this is gonna sound crazy, okay, but everybody, being a Cardinals guy, everybody might expect me to say like Willie McGee or Vince Coleman or Terry Pendleton or something like that. But my favorite player growing up was Milt Thompson.
Outfielder.
Mel Thompson, yeah. He played a few seasons with the Cardinals. And I loved Milt Thompson. A family friend of mine who was 4 years older than me, and this is probably when I was first or second grade, and I just remember that we would always be talking about Milt Thompson. And so, like, whenever we play wiffle ball outside, everybody'd be Cal Ripken or they'd be Jose Canseco. I'd always be Milt Thompson because I just liked him. Yeah, never made an all-star team. He's coached for a good while. Matter of fact, in my basement, was sort of like my man cave, I have a game used bat of his that I hung up just because he's just, it's just one of those things that I sort of have nostalgia for. So
that's great.
I love
answers like that, man. That's just that makes everything cool. It's not the superstar, just a random player that you fell in love with.
Milt Thompson's number one, and the number two, just to sort of make it a longer answer in some ways, but Steve Finley's from Paducah, Kentucky, and so Steve Finley is a big one for me. So we knew his family, so we got to go see him play quite a bit. Whenever he was in and around. Saw him play at Wrigley a couple times, one with the Padres, one with the Diamondbacks. And so he was another one that I've got tons of stuff of his just because he's from Paducah, and he had a really, really good career. So he's be number two.
He was a hell of a player.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a good player. Good player. So yeah, so that's mine. That's my two favorites growing up.
When did you get into vintage? When you were a kid, you grabbing cards, getting the Lou Brocks and the legendary.
So my dad saved a bunch of his old stuff and gave it to me, and so. But as far as like vintage goes now, is I specifically I just don't get the cards themselves. I want them signed. So like if I'm gonna get a card of a Cardinal from the 60s, the 50s, and then going back into the 30s, I want it signed, which makes it more ridiculously expensive. But it's just that's something I want to do. And so, like right now, I'm working on the 1931 Metropolitan Series Cardinals. It's a jumbo card that came out in like a magazine in 1931 that they would sell outside the stadium. And I'm trying to get all those signed. And I'm about 5'6" short. By the way, if anybody's watching this, if you have the Chick Haffey 31, hit me up because I will fork out the cash for it. But it's I've got a lot. I've got mostly the hard ones. Like this is Dizzy Dean's first official card. It's a jumbo card, so some people don't consider it, but I have that inside, and that's the only one I know of. I'm trying to think of the other big ones. Oh, Jim Bottomley. I have quite a bit of his stuff, personal items that I bought at an auction, and they're actually in a museum. His museum in Napoleon, Illinois. It's called the Bottomley Roughing and Chalk Museum. So in this little county in Illinois, all three of those Hall of Famers are from that county. And so they have a little museum in that town. And so I ended up getting hooked up with the museum and put on loan a lot of his personal items that are on display there. So.
Hey, it's funny you said about, it's like an oddball set, right? It's a little oversized, but me and Joe, we always, especially he knows how I am, like I always look for like a player's first card or maybe a card that everybody's have, and I kind of search around for that. It's just something about those oddball sets. And and also the journey to find them. That man. I know it could get you mad, but it's also an amazing feeling when you finally track something down or you finally find it.
So being a history teacher, it's I use this example all the time. It's like archaeology. It's like you're Indiana Jones trying to find this item, and it's nearly impossible to find. But it's the search that makes it so fun a lot of the times, because you're like literally I'm tracking down old messages from the early 2000s about this one card I'm looking for, and like you don't know who has it, where's it at. You're on all these message boards and the Net 54 and I'm on eBay 20, just it's one of my, you just try to find it and you might not, and that's okay, but it's a search. And so, I have a blast with that. But like I said, I'm about 5-6 short out of about 30 cards. So I got a pretty good start on it. So
That
it's one
31
of those things.
legendary of the Gashouse Gang teams, right? 31. Well, would you say the 34?
Right. It's so I'd say 34 is. But the 31 is the only time they put that out. Yeah, they were. You might be thinking more of the 26 team. The 26 team was really underdog to the Yankees. But the 34 team was against the A's. And so they were in the 31 too. So they were both underdogs to Connie Mac's A's. And so 34 is really what's considered the Gashouse Gang. And I've got quite a bit of stuff signed on hotel stationaries, things like that of the 34 team. 31's, I'm partial to 31 just because of that set. But a lot of the same players were on the 34 team too. So yeah, I sort of have a liking to collect Frankie Frisch stuff. Frankie signed a lot, but so like I brought a couple things like his wide pins signed. There's another early card of his signed. I love the George Burke photographs that are signed. So I go after a lot of those.
Yeah.
That's a Frisch. I just bought a Medwick on eBay. Here's a Sparky Adams one. That's a George Burke one too.
Great shot.
So a lot of my stuff, what I do is I just put it in a safety deposit box because I know a lot of people love to display their stuff. And I'm cool. It's all power to them. I'm just sort of I worry about that kind of stuff, and I just want to hand it down to my kids. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna stick it in, and I put pictures on it on Instagram just so people can see, and that way Now I'm gonna show you something though that's pretty cool. That I think you'll enjoy this story. So this guy's named Ed Hawley. Okay, Ed Hawley wasn't much of a pitcher. Okay, he pitched for the Phillies in the 30s, but he's buried here in Paducah, and he's from around this area. So what I do is around to like the local Lions clubs and a lot of historical societies. I'll go and I'll talk about baseball in Paducah, and so this Hawley is one thing that I bring with me because nobody knows him. He was an ace on the Phillies in the 30s, but it's one of those things that I always keep and special to me because of his history with Paducah. Here's the one that I recently picked up. It's a Gowdy signed Jim Bottomley.
Man,
Beautiful
that's
card.
nice.
So, yeah, so as far as the Gashouse Gang goes on the Gowdies, I have a Frisch and a Bottomley, and y'all gonna like this. So I always scour eBay like I'm sure you guys are too. I found a guy that was selling the cash in publication, 2 cash in publication cards. I don't think he really knew what he had. And one was signed by Frankie Frisch. It was a Frisch one, and one was signed by Dazzy Vats. So I bought them, and I was like, I'm gonna take a gamble. They look good to me. Sent them in a PSA. They passed, and they're slabbing them. So I was super pumped. I got them for next to nothing of what they're worth.
What?
So I was so pumped. Yeah.
Yeah, when you get a score like that, man, it's nothing. It's just that's a great feeling,
Oh my goodness! Whenever it popped yesterday, I mean, I was giddy. I was like, oh man, and they're pop ones too. So
So let me ask you, I mean, obviously you buy raw, will you always get them graded, or sometimes you don't care if
Yeah.
you know, how do you go about that?
So as far as like, some signatures I'm pretty comfortable with. Like a Joe Medwick I'm comfortable with. Frisch I'm comfortable with. A Haffey, most of the early Cardinals I'm pretty comfortable with. But I don't feel comfortable unless it's either PSA or I trust Beckett and I trust the early JSA. I'm not saying JSA doesn't do a good job. I think they do, but just to me, the early ones are the most reliable to me.
Yep.
So those are the ones I go with. But I feel more comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
It just, especially the early signatures, the modern stuff. Sometimes, I really don't send much modern stuff unless it's like a rare, like I recently got a John Lester on a Cardinals card, so something like that, where, he might have one or two cards, him in a Cardinals uniform.
Mm-hmm.
We go to the winter warm up every year in St. Louis. So me and my dad and my son, and so we get a lot of in-person stuff there. So like last year we got Nolan Arenado and Brendan Donovan and on card stuff. So I, obviously I feel comfortable with that, but I'm just rambling.
No, good stuff.
Yeah, I like stuff, man. It's really cool. Yeah, I mean, anytime we see like the Gaudy card signed, it's just amazing to me. Just right, Joe. I mean, it's just so crazy. Like those cards, such a beautiful set, and the fact that they were, they're autographed of guys who were playing in the 30s and 20s and maybe the 40s, whatever. But it's just an amazing kind of thing, especially the more like obscure guys, the guys that mean something to you. And if you're trying to collect the whole set, like signed 1933 Gaudy, that dude that's just an unbelievable feat. But like
that's
amazing to me.
That'd
Like
be tough
random
to do.
player, yeah, random players
Yeah,
is like just tough.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's just
Yeah.
just so, I'm trying to find like autographs of guys from the 80s or whatever that I like. So that stuff blows me away. I love the set, the history behind it, and just the fact that those cards, people get them slabbed and signed, is just amazing to me. Because they seem so, they seem like so old, those cards.
Well, it's also also the autographs, Joe, right? Like the way they look, the pens they signed them in, and some you could almost tell when they signed them by the pen, right? Sometimes, you would appreciate this. You would appreciate this. I collect like Negro League guys who played in the Negro League, and also in MLB. I did a project where I collected one card or memorabilia from every Negro League player that played in the majors. So now I moved on to trying to get them all signed. So you would appreciate this one.
Oh, nice! It's first Cardinal to play.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Tom Alston. That's a tough one.
That's a tough one, and this was it was like an old postcard.
Nice.
I think it was a team issued postcard, but the writing on it and the handwriting, you could tell that he signed this a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
So
that's a good one. I've actually never seen
that one.
I've never seen that. I've never seen that one.
And it's funny because what happened?
I don't know. We were all talking at once, but I'm just gonna say
stuff's tough. It's tough.
And signing, like they took a lot of pride in their autographs and signing it. And you see that what autographs look like today, it's absurd. I mean, if you don't want to sign 10,000 cards for $10 each, don't do it. Be that guy who doesn't sign that many. But I don't know. I just find that it ruins cards. When you see Ricky Henderson or like Don Mattingly's auto or like Dwight Gooden, like they have beautiful auto. I know the guys from the 80s, the guys from the 30s and 50s, they're like, that was another level of penmanship taught in school. Nowadays, I don't know. I mean, I think they're going to start teaching it again. But I mean, you need to, script writing is awesome. Yeah. It makes your life worse.
It is beautiful stuff. And like Andre Dawson has one of the prettiest signatures
Amazing.
He's a Cubs, but he's an Expo. That's what I'm gonna say. He's an Expo. So
I mean, look how beautiful that right. Come on, Ricky. Look how perfect that is.
It's unbelievable.
It's a beautiful signature.
You know, and you know, and look how like he knew where to put it. These kids now, it's like some of these kids don't even write. They just write in block letters. I mean, my daughter's 9. She signs her name better than these kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kills me whenever I see like, and when kids when they can't get drafted, and they're starting to come up to be a big time prospect, their signature it's not as bad. Like for example, Jordan Walker, when he first started signing, you could just tell Jordan Walker. I mean, it's a beautiful signature, but now he signs so much, it's just a J and a W, a J and a W. I mean, it's just like. Mason Wynn's the same way. Mason Wynn used to, I mean, you can see Mason, but it's just they've signed so much and I understand, I get it. I mean, you know, they're trying to appease a lot of people, trying to get their autograph. I get it, but it's changed. It's changed so much.
I was just looking at an Anthony Volpe one I have. Same thing. Mm-hmm. He has the nice script. Like this was an early Volpe one, but if you look. If his auto is not like that now, he doesn't write his whole name out to that extent with the lines. You know, this is like a high school autograph. You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what this is? This is I'm not rich yet. I didn't get my signing bonus yet. Autograph. That's what.
Yeah. It's like oh my goodness, people want my autograph. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I understand like that they're trying to sign as many to appease the fans, and I get that. But you can definitely tell whenever a lot of the autograph hounds that are just trying to get 50 of them signed, you know, are sticking them in their face, and they're just like, you know, just trying to sign as many as possible.
And I understand that though at a game, like
I get it.
I have stuff from games, and I didn't care what it said, you know, but when you're sitting down, like Joe was saying, and you have to sign this many cards, and you're getting paid, and it's. And remember, it's not just about you. It's someone getting that card and enjoying it as well. That could be worth, you know, whatever type of money. It's just, you know, but if you do have to sign 1,000 cards in one day, I mean, it could get crazy. But
yeah,
that's the great thing. That's the great thing about, like you said, with the old timers, man. The autographs were just classic.
Oh yeah, they well, you know, you talk to your like older collectors that are in their 70s and, you know, or older, and they'll talk about meeting players out in the street and how, and most of the time they were so accommodating. You know, they would sign whatever and talk to the kid or whatever. You know, you're gonna have some horror stories here and there, but they took their time and they signed fan mail, like and they actually took time to sign the fan mail. Like it blows my mind. How often Roger Maris did. Roger Maris sat down and would sign fan mail, and what all he went through, he still took the time to do that. And I know that a lot of players still do that, but man, the nostalgia back then, different time, and it wasn't a business then. It was just something people would do, like collect stamps.
Well, you look at like Willie Mays. He was in the streets with the kids playing stickball. Now, can you imagine if Aaron Judge was in the street play? It couldn't happen. So it's like a different time where a guy like Willie Mays, who was larger than life back then, still could go outside in the neighborhood and play stickball, you know, with the fellas, with the kids. I mean, you'll never get that back.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you've seen the Ken Burns baseball series.
Oh. Yeah,
and then so you know when Shelby Foote was talking about going to see Babe Ruth, they just knocked on his hotel door, and Lou Gehrig opens it, and he says, "Hey, Babe, these kids are out here to see you." And Babe comes to the door and shakes their hands and talks to him for a second, and then they leave. I mean, and then just went up to the front desk and asked, "Hey, what room's Babe staying in?" I mean, can you imagine doing that today? That it just wouldn't happen.
Oh, it couldn't happen. Yeah, it's a different time. It's just, I mean, those were the glory days.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It was. Oh man, Yeah, sometimes I feel like I was born in the wrong century.
Oh, my wife tells me that every day because I'm an old soul. So she messes with me. She's like, "You're always complaining about something." I'm like, "No, it's just I miss the times of my time when I was young and way before from the stories. I think I was raised a lot by my grandmother and grandfather. I was always around them, so like you become that, you miss that, and it's not the same anymore. But
no, it's not. It's not. But yeah, that's why we collect. We want the nostalgia. We want to feel like we have some connection to a player that's died 20 years before we were born. But we want that connection to them somehow, like a part of them. And I know that's why I collect, and I just like to tell the stories. Being a history teacher, that's what we do. We just tell stories and telling stories about the Gashouse Gang, or telling stories about Ed Hawley from Paducah, or like Barney Dreyfuss, who created the World Series. He lived in Paducah for about 12 years, and so I drive past where he lived all the time in downtown Paducah, and it's just telling kids. I teach sixth grade, so telling kids those stories. They don't know who those people are, but they get enamored by them. They want to hear about them.
Yeah,
so it's fun.
So awesome, because in most places in the States, there's significant baseball history somehow.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's cool. I mean, in New York, being in New York, it's like there are a lot of important places where really important games are played, but nothing. Unfortunately, a lot of those places are not there anymore. It's like, I mean, the Polo Grounds, Ebbets Field, but I'm talking even older, like Elysian Fields and all these weird places that these games were played in, like 1910 or 1890, like just incredible games where, like, the teams from New Jersey, the best team from New Jersey played the best, whatever the leagues were. Like, I mean, that to me is so cool. And it's such an entrenched thing in our history, baseball, and the fact that the way the game is ordered the way it is, where, stats are more important to, I think, baseball fans than other sports. I mean, I love hockey, but, there's just so much you can get out of hockey stats. Baseball stats, I could get a card from a guy who played in 1910 or 1911 or whatever, and go into Baseball Reference and look at his years and just say, wow, what happened this year? Why did this happen? And then I can dig and see if I can find an old newspaper article about why he only played a couple of games. And I mean, me and Joe talk about it all the time. The guys from those eras, because they were, more regular kind of folks, it's a totally different dynamic. When people say things like, oh, these guys were farmers and all this, and plumbers. Listen, an average plumber will beat the shit out of an average baseball player, especially now. These guys get their, blood checked 4 times a day, and they have these chambers they're in and all this. Dude, please, these guys getting up at 6 a.m, cleaning somebody's crap out of it, But I love that old, and that connection. And with baseball, it's weird. Even though these guys are superstars, everybody knows somebody, right? Oh, this dude got drafted. Oh, my boy played against Manny Ramirez in high school, or this and that. It's like, it's so entrenched in our history. And I think that's why, like, me and Joe, we talk to guys like you from another state, grew up a fan of a different team, but we share so much in common with the love of the game. And like,
Oh, yeah.
So that is awesome. It's really cool to hear other people's perspectives, like your perspective, Paducah and all that stuff. Like, I don't know about that. So I'm hearing this. I'm like, I love to hear this stuff. So go on, man. Keep going.
I know that you being a Yankees fan. So I don't know if you how deeply you do the Yankees minor league system in about 94. But they had a guy that was going to be on the squad for the strike. Kit Wallace was his name. He was a reliever. But he was on the 40-man and when the Yankees won the World Series in '96, and but he's from Paducah, so he's at the Chiefs games every time too. So it's so cool because I'll sit by Kent and he'll talk about like about David Cone and how that like David Cone and him were running mates in spring training. They'd run together, and he picked Kent because Kent would he was a rookie and he would make him go slow so he wouldn't have to run as fast. and he said, yeah. And he would talk about like he played in the minors, all through the minors with Jeter and Posada and all those guys, and just what down to earth people they were. Him and Ramirez were buddies too. Rivera, excuse me, not Ramirez. And I asked him, so who was the most talented guy you ever played with? And who was the cat that stole the glove from Jeter?
Rivera, Ruben Rivera.
Ruben Rivera. He said he's the most talented guy he's ever played with.
Holy
He said he was unbelievable. He said he was a true five-tool guy. He said he was everything, but he just couldn't put it together. Yep. He said, but he was the most talented I'd ever seen.
I mean, I remember he was a huge prospect. I mean, but once that happened, I mean, that was it, lights out.
That was it.
Yeah.
That's it. And so it's really cool to hear his Yankee stories. So, cause he's still just a huge Yankee fan and stuff. And so let's see, who's the Pirates manager right now? I should know this. He's even from around Kentucky. Anyway, that was his catcher in the minor leagues. Oh, so shoot. he goes and whenever they're in St. Louis, he'll go and visit them and stuff like that. And so that's just cool. It's, like those little stories, you hear, and just neat.
Let me ask you: Is there a card that, like, I'm not going to say a Grail card, but are you more looking to, like, in your hobby, whatever you love, is it like a completion of like a set, or is it like there's this one card that I like kind of always wanted, but what side are you on with that?
I'm on. Well, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, I'd have said it's probably a card, but now I'm the completion of the 31 Metropolitan signed. No doubt. Not even close. Now, I can go win the lottery and maybe get a Ruth Gowdy or a Garrett Gowdy signed and stuff. Yeah, sure. But yeah, it's the completing of the set. I have a Ruth auto, I have a Garrett auto. I have a lot of the Hall of Famers. Hall of Famer autos are a big thing for me. But I've sort of, I guess I would say 15 years ago, the Hall of Fame, maybe, 15 years ago, was probably I was on the Hall of Fame auto train. I want to get a Hall of Fame autograph Ivory Hall of Famer or something, like, I was on that. And then I sort of like, I fell in love with the 30s Cardinals. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sort of stick to this because it can get out of hand with the other ones. So I went that route. What about you? Do you have a dream card?
It's a tough one again because, I know people always, I want a man or rookie. I'm always like the same way. Like, I have projects, but like honestly, if I could, I would love a Josh Gibson card. I mean, I know they're like totally like you can't find them, but a Josh Gibson card, I mean, that is like pushing it to the next level, right? Like you said, would I get rid of every card I could think of and then put money in it to get one card? The hobby is crazy, man. It's like, but on that level, on the utmost level, probably like a Josh Gibson, and then going down, maybe like like you said, like a Gehrig, rookie auto or something like that. But I don't have one that I'm searching because I'm always searching for so many odd things that I never focus on one thing.
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of collecting.
Yeah.
I've read. I don't remember what it was, what website I was on. It was one of the communities. Some guy was selling his whole collection. I mean, he had a unbelievable collection, but he was showing it for one card. There was a dream card he wanted. One came up for sale, and he was going to sell everything he ever collected to get that card.
And I respect that. Like,
yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go for it. Like, if that's what I mean, Joe. Like, what? Like, for you? You're not a Grail card, right? Or you're like kind of my boat, no?
I mean, honestly, if I could have a Gaudy Babe Ruth, like a 3 or 4, I mean, not even if it was a 1, I wouldn't care. A Christy Mathewson T206 would be another Grail card for me. And I mean, of course, would I look Mantle rookie? Yeah, but some other cards to me are a little bit more interesting. So whatever, man. But
we always talk about that, right, Joe? Like
we talk about this all that we actually
would we get rid of all our cards to get like 3 or 4 or 5 cards? Like, would you get rid of every card to just have a few cards that you could put on your desk or you could put away? So it's something to say. I don't think you ever have a final answer on something like that.
I mean, I would say my attainable one is the Aaron rookie. I'm going to get an Aaron rookie one day. That to me is amazing. But Ben, I just thought of something that's fun because we what's cool about this, and this happens with me and Joe all the time. We talk about cards, but we really end up talking about baseball. Mm-hmm. And then when we do that, I usually end up editing it out, put the card stuff. But with this one, we're just going to keep whatever we're saying because this is great. I want to talk about Alan Watson, okay?
Yeah.
Now, Alan Watson is from around my parts, right?
Okay.
Alan Watson lives half a mile from me.
No kid.
Coaching my boy in high school. So and this is, okay, so he got rings, whatever. This is like 2001, 2002. We used to hang out with him all the time. He'd buy everybody drinks, Waddy, the man, some huge big Irish dude. This is the funny story. This big Irish dude comes in off the boat. Now, none of these guys know about baseball, but this guy's talking shit. He's like, that son of a bitch got 3 rings. How the fuck, or however many rings he got. And Alan Watson just goes up to him. He's like, yo, take it easy, bro. He buys this guy. I mean, it's just an amazing thing. But this is the funniest part. We play stickball where me and Joe come from, right? We got Waddy to play stickball with us one time. This guy's sitting there with a tennis ball, throwing the thing like so hard. It's so crazy. We're like, yo, chill, you're going to blow your arm out. But he's a cool guy. He's from the neighborhood. Such a down-to-earth, cool dude. Alan Watson. I see him in a pizzeria I used to work in back in the day. Cool guy, and I think he's the coach of the Christ the King baseball team where he coaches with them. But it's a cool link to St. Louis.
That's a really good baseball program,
right? Yeah, no, Christ the King.
Hey Joe, what's really cool about it is imagine growing up. He grew up in Queens. He played for the Yankees and the Mets.
Yep. Oh no, wait.
But more importantly, he played with the Cardinals.
Didn't he play? He didn't play for the Yankees and the Mets, or he just played for the Yanks.
Yeah, Yankees. He played for the He started with the Cardinals. He played.
Yeah. But he won a ring with the Yanks, right?
I think he won a couple of rings, bro.
Yeah.
He was a good player. He had a good career.
Yeah,
I remember him with the Cardinals.
Yeah,
I remember him with that's a cool story. That's
cool guy.
I'm an assistant baseball coach on our middle school baseball team, and our high school program is pretty successful here in Western Kentucky, McCracken County. So I've heard of just listening and keeping up with just national. McCracken's not national yet, maybe one day, but I know across the Kings it's a good one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The basketball program is serious.
Oh yeah, being from Kentucky. I'm a diehard Wildcats fan, so I know that they've. I've also heard them from the basketball program. I know that Patino would get a lot of kids out of New York, and then of course Cal's got a few too, out of New York too. So I know that's a thriving basketball area. So I'm sure you guys Syracuse and I'd say Syracuse, is that y'all squad?
You know what it is? Basketball, college basketball isn't like a huge thing in New York, but when we were kids, the Big East.
Oh yeah.
Listen, when you had Georgetown, St. John's, Pitt, Syracuse, Villanova. I mean, you had Ewing, you had Derek Coleman, that Big East was special. But now the Big East is like it's
top of the line.
Yeah.
It was
It was
top
a
of the
great.
line.
It was a great time for college basketball in New York, even though it was never like as big as it was in the South and where you're from. But
St. John's, St. John's was a big boy too back then. I mean,
oh yeah, Malik
yeah.
Sealy and Mark Jackson and all those
Yeah.
guys.
But Tino's back in our good graces in this state now, well, at least Kentucky fans. So he'll get that program at St. John's turned around. He's a remarkable coach.
He's a lifer, man. He's a lifer. That's all he wants to do is coach.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's funny to sort of go and skewing on top of it. But when that whole thing with Louisville went down, and he ended up getting fired, leaving, and then he was in Iona, and like how like he started talking really nice about Kentucky, like the University of Kentucky, and how like he wished he never left it, gone to Boston, and and like now all Kentucky fans are like, oh yeah, we love Rick, yeah, bring him back to Rupp, and it's just funny. It's funny how things changed in a short span of time.
True.
So that's fun stuff.
I gotta ask you, do you collect any like current, like would you collect it all? Is there a favorite play if you did buy a card from someone from like the current Cardinals? Is there a certain player?
We go to the winter warm up every year, and it's a charity for Cardinals Care. So you buy autograph tickets to meet those guys. So what I try to do is, sorry, that's my daughter. So what I try to do is get usually Topps Heritage because they look the best to get signed on card. But I try to get some of those guys, especially if I don't have them on a Cardinals card. So like last year, I got Arenado on a Cardinals card. Of course, Arenado, besides like for companies, doesn't sign like in person. He just doesn't. So that was my one time to get him. And even though that he didn't have a very good year, and he's probably not well liked at times by Cardinals fans, even though he had a decent year, I guess, in some ways at the end of the year. Wilson Contreras is probably someone I'll get in a Cardinals card next year. But that's not really, unless it's at the winter warm up. I don't know.
Do you think Arenado is a Hall of Famer? Do you think he has a chance?
Yes, I think he is. Just defensively, I think that no, I don't think he's the best third baseman defensively. I think Brooks Robinson will always be that. But I think that if he has, let's say 3 more really, really good years, then yes, I would put him in the Hall of Fame. Of course, I'm biased though.
Joe, what do you think on that, Joe?
I think Nolan Arenado is
yeah,
sure, and I think part of that is like when you look at his numbers are really good at this moment. Like Ben said, all right, it's not at what we would what we would think of a Hall of Famer like, but I feel like things are changing with that, and I players getting into the Hall of Fame, they're using different metrics and stuff like that, and it's not even that as much as maybe how the game's changed in that guys aren't playing 154 games a year, 158 games. They're playing a lot less. They're doing it strategically to give them time off and all this stuff. I mean, whatever. It's just a different game, especially with the pitching. It's the question of like it's kind of like the grading of the cards. You get a card graded from 2003, and you look at it and you're like, that would get an 8 now. It's kind of the same thing with the pitching, where you're like, all right, this guy has 200 wins. Like Wilbur Wood. How come Wilbur Wood's not in the Hall of Fame? But some guy now is going to get, you know what I mean? Like, but nowadays you're going to get 200 wins in an era where pitching, I don't care what anyone says. You're only pitched in 6 innings. How are you better than a guy who has 200 wins from the 7th, who was thrown, an absurd amount and his arm didn't fall off? And, a thing that people don't think about is back in those days, if you blew out your arm, you're done. I mean, maybe not Wilbur Wood's days, but, before that, I don't know exactly when the first Tommy John surgery happened, but in the 30s, okay, you blew your arm out. All right, man, what are you going to do? You can't play baseball anymore. That's it. Nowadays, these kids are getting this stuff done before they even get injured, and they're getting it done in high school. So to me, we have to reassess, like, who's the Hall of Famer. And that's why I'm saying, like, Nolan Arenado in this modern era, I would say he's already almost a Hall of Famer.
And he's the best defensive third baseman of this generation. At least, come on.
I would agree with that.
In the last 20 years, there's no,
I would say
I mean,
goes Scott Rowland.
defensively. I mean,
I would-
defensively. I mean, it's tough to. I mean, the plays that guy's made. I mean, he's an insane third baseman.
Awesome, bro.
He's the Cardinals have been blessed with having two of the three best defensive third basemen, and definitely in the last 70 years with Scott Rowland, and who just recently got in, and then Arenado. But I'm with you about looking at these guys and assessing these guys now, and what I also look to is the position they play, because and a couple of my friends always dog me about it, and I understand, but Jeff Kent has the most home runs as a second baseman, and like the guy or not, the dude had a great career, and you can say, well, he wasn't a natural second baseman. I don't care. I mean, he has the most home runs as a second baseman. Shouldn't he be considered more than what he is? I mean, I would say so. I mean, he's a guy that I would think. Wilbur Wood is another good one. That Tommy John's a good one. Tommy John he should be in the Hall of Fame. Jim Cott just got in. That was good. But I have some of my buddies that are huge diehard baseball fans too, and they like a smaller hall. They want a smaller hall and stuff. But I'm more of a let's look at how times changed.
It's like comparing five, like Mattingly had 5 MVP seasons where Harold Baines had 15 really good seasons.
Don't get me started on Harold Baines.
But do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
There's no way you're gonna tell. For me, maybe I'm biased, but Mattingly, there's no way Baines was a better player. I get it long term, but just because you stretch your career out, did you do more damage during those years? Mattingly was one of the top 2 players in the league. So for 5-6 years, so it's such a tough thing to feel. But
when Harold Baines got into the Hall of Fame. When Harold Baines got into the Hall of Fame, I lost my mind. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" I mean, the dude was a good player, but I don't even know if I'd put him. I don't know if I'd put him in the Hall of the Very Good. He was a solid player.
Yeah,
but he
was above average player.
But
very good hitter. I mean, above average. I mean, he did have 700 plus hits. He was
okay.
But yeah, I see. But here's the thing, right, Ben? So this is what I think about it, right? I get the small hole thing. I'm kind of conflicted with it sometimes, but if you look at the 50s, you could say, all right, obviously Mantle, Mays, Aaron, Koufax, Clemente, those guys are legends. They're Hall of Famers. Who from 2010 can we name 5 guys? Of that caliber? When I say that, I'm talking those guys are the small hall guys. Now, if we talk about small hall from the year 2000, we got Pujols, Miggy, maybe Mike Trout. I don't know who else. I mean, who else is there that you're going to?
Bryce Harper, maybe. Bryce Harper, maybe.
Maybe, yeah, he's on his way.
Sure, but I'm saying, pick 5 guys that are ridiculous from 2000, pitchers included. And I can't. I could say Miggy. I could say Albert Pujols. I could say Mike Trout, and then
maybe Pedro Martinez. I know that.
I would put Pedro in the early 90s as a rookie. I'm saying from 2000 on, and maybe adding Bryce Harper and Mike Trout. Maybe not fair because those guys are the younger generation. 2010 and 2012, their rookie seasons. But I'm saying from 2000 on to now. I mean, you know who I think? Francisco Rodriguez is a hall, but that's a small hall guy. Oh, can we pick 5 guys?
David Ortiz?
No, I don't think so. I don't think. I think Ortiz. I think what's going to skew Ortiz is, and people probably don't like to hear this, but I mean, I don't know your stance on PEDs, but I mean, to me, and I'm an old-fashioned guy. If they PED'd, I'm out. But if you would include PEDs, then you go with Clemens. You go with A-Rod.
What about Albert Bell?
Oh,
he had
good player, but I put him in the Harold Baines category. Good player. He got injured though. He got injured a lot. If he'd have been longer, I would have said yes. Aaron Judge is on his way if he can stay healthy.
Freddie Freeman, maybe if he keeps
Man,
going.
Freddie is going to be a Hall of Famer. I think that's the most solid bet you could say now. He's more consistent than anybody since 2010.
He's the only one that really has a chance close to 3,000 hits. If he's
just got to stay healthy. He's one that I could definitely see doing that. Mookie Betts is another one that
Mookie Betts is Hall of Fame, I think.
Yeah. So by the way, Mookie Betts, his family's from Paducah.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. If you go from 2010, you could say Trout, Freeman, Harper, Mookie Betts, like those. I mean, if their careers stay what they are, those guys could be those small hole guys, right?
They could, and
I don't know. Like I said, I think you got to reassess the way you look at guys. Like if Dave Parker and Don Mattingly aren't in the Hall of Fame, well, I mean, what are we doing?
There's no way that Dave Parker can't be in over Harold Baines. There's impossible.
No, I agree. I 100% agree. I agree. I don't think there's any way that I think that Tommy John, if Jim Cott's in, Tommy John should be in. And if you look, I mean, some of the guys that are in the Hall, let's say like for example, a guy that played in the 50s and the 40s, George Kell. If you look at his statistics, they're not like eye popping. If he's in, then I mean, why isn't Jeff Kent in? Why isn't
I mean, I look at one of my favorite characters and favorite people growing up, and he's a guy I collect a lot, is Phil Rizzuto. But Phil Rizzuto, if you look, I mean, he played winning teams. He was a great, but his personality, there's a lot of things that went into that. But if you're looking at stats, I mean,
the media has to like it.
Better numbers, dude. Me and Joe always joke around. We say Bill White, who we love Bill White because he was the announcer for the Yankees. Bill White has better numbers than Scooter does. And Bill White's Hall of Fame. I believe that. I mean, he's a better player. Bill White was
if Bill White would have played in New York. But if Bill White would have played in New York, he probably would be a Hall of Famer.
My mom found this. Yeah, it was a personalized auto, and Joe has some really good Scooter clips.
But like if Bill White played in New York, I think he would be Hall of Famer. But like he was on some really successful Cardinals teams.
Yeah.
Kurt Flood. If I had to pick one person that I say, actually, I'm gonna pick two guys. They're like, are you kidding me? Why aren't they? Kurt Flood's number one. Kurt Flood is the number one Cardinal to me that should be in the Hall of Fame. And then number two, and people are gonna say, well, he just didn't have that long enough of a career. But to me, a Hall of Famer is someone that changed the game, and Roger Maris changed the game. Roger Maris changed the game, and Roger Maris should be in the Hall of Fame. The guy deserves it. He and Judge to me are the two true home run kings, and what that man went through, and what that man had to deal with. I just he won an MVP. He won 2 MVPs. And so I would have put Maris in. Some people don't agree with me, but Maris is one that's Kurt Flood and him are the two that bother me the most as far as Cardinal players not being in.
Well, they both had iconic, the home run champ and then the free agent champ. Yeah, I look at it like I mean, they changed the game, and if you change the game, there's not many that you could sit here and say that have that much impact on baseball.
Well, who's the lawyer for the Players Association just got in? Marvin Miller.
Marvin
right?
Miller,
yeah, he just got in. So why isn't Flood in? I mean, he Flood had it. If you look at his numbers defensively, defensively he was great. I mean, like he was a great defensive player. Now we're going to put, if we're doing metrics, he's up there. So, it's one of the things that you could talk for hours and hours. And hours and hours about. So,
true.
It is what it is. They just need to put us on the committee. We'll take care of it.
Yeah, let's just we figure that. That would be great. Everybody it would be all done the right way. They had us.
Hey, if you didn't. You got the fans in it, and instead of some of the journalists who, if they didn't like someone, they're just not going to vote for them.
And that's part of it that I cannot stand. If you have a vendetta against someone because you don't like him because he didn't answer your questions, what does that have to do with him being It's ridiculous. What are you, a 5-year-old? I never
Well,
understood.
I mean, I don't think Ruth got 100% of the vote. I
I
mean,
know.
so I mean, it's just like, what are we doing? I mean, come on.
I feel like Jeff Kent gets hurt for that.
Yeah, he does, and he was not well liked.
No.
And I'm sure he had an attitude. I mean, you know,
Hey.
whatever, but but that does hurt him a lot. And of course, it ultimately obviously the steroid thing is number one, but I mean, it killed Barry Bonds. I mean, I'm not a Bonds guy. Not many people are Bonds people unless you're a Giants fan or maybe a Pirates fan. But his relationship with the media was one of the worst ever
Yeah.
in baseball.
I'm
And so
a Bonds fan. Bonds is like he's his own worst enemy.
Yeah.
To me, Barry Bonds, and I know he obviously was a cheater, he did steroids, but like probably the best all-around player I've ever seen offensively. I mean, you could question how good of a defender he was, whatever. But I mean, it's just crazy how tainted all of that has become. But when you're a guy like a Barry Bonds and you have a bad, personality, let's be honest, the guy was, his high school team hated him, his college team hated him. Jimmy Leland probably didn't like him too much.
he did not like you.
So it's like you have a guy where everywhere you go, you're kind of like this pain in the ass guy. You're not going to get in the Hall of Fame, but Scooter, he's in. David Ortiz is walking around the South Bronx getting hugs from Yankee fans. Of course, he's going to get in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? But a Barry Bonds, especially when you have the drug thing attached to you, it's just a crazy thing. I have this book called what's it called? It's a Bill James book. It's all about players not getting into the Hall of Fame and who should have gotten, who shouldn't have gotten. It's from like 1990 or something.
Case for Cooperstown. Is that it?
Yeah. No, it's called something of glory. I read it like 3 years ago. But it's so crazy. Like the stuff we're talking about, there are like hundreds of guys that people make these arguments about, like not only guys that should be in, but like you said, guys that shouldn't be in. Guys, and you're like, how is this guy in the Hall of Fame?
So do you know that story behind like how a lot of those guys in the Hall of Fame, so my boy Frankie Frisch is one of the main problems is because he was on the committee when that Veterans Committee just started, and he got he had all his friends elected, so that's how they got in. Yeah, so that's how a lot of those old time Cardinals players got in because they played with him on those 30s teams, and they had good careers, and it's not that like they were dogging it or anything, but statistically, I don't know if they were Hall of Fame good players, but hey, they're in, so hey, I'll it is what it is. But the Veterans Committee, especially in the 50s, put a lot of players in that would definitely definitely questionable today and whatnot. But I think that Bonds and Clemens and Manny, I think that they will eventually get in. I think that there will be times that go by that people will be like, oh, it was just an different era. Everybody was using it. So therefore, we're just going to go ahead and put them in. I think that time will come. Maybe not in our lifetime, but it will come. I think that Pete Rose will eventually get in. Maybe not in our lifetime.
I would hate to see it happen after he passes. I mean, I get whatever, but like if you're going to put him in, I mean, I don't know. It's stuff like that is weird. I mean, when are they going to put him in 50 years from now?
So
yes. I mean, it's silly. Okay. Okay.
Politics of Glory. And I should read it again, but it just gets me upset because what we're talking about. But if they go into how, initially it was only writers and it was all about the small hall. And when the committee started, that's when they started putting in guys that were questionable. So, but it's, it is what it is. It's crazy to be in the Hall of Fame, to be the guy, Pete Rose, he's in the Hall of Fame, whether you like it or not, because his name's right, more hits than anybody. So it's absurd. Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. I know he's done some shitty things in his life and he's whatever, man. No one's in, but
well, you look at some of the guys in the 20s. I mean, like some of those guys were not good guys. And it's before social media, it's before Sports Illustrated and stuff like that. So this stuff, there was a under the table agreement between newspapermen and the players that this stuff wasn't going to get out. So, yeah, I mean, Pete Rose betting on the game, obviously huge no and whatnot. But, if you're going to put him in, they'll probably put something in there about that. And I think he'd be okay with that. I don't know. I'm also Shoeless Joe Jackson should be in. I think that's a crime too. And I'm also with you. Like, it kills me when they put some of these guys in after they're dead, like Minnie Minoso. This guy elected, and he just passed away a couple of years ago. I mean, and you can't give that guy.
That's if you're gonna do it, then just let the guy go with that feeling that, all right, it took forever, but I got to see, it
Buck O'Neil, same
Buck
thing.
O'Neil. That was totally ridiculous. For what that guy did for the game. That's just. He was such a great guy. His stories, I could listen to that guy for hours. His stories. He saw everything and everyone. He was a great storyteller, and he was, from what I understand, I never met the guy, but very personable. Yeah.
And so, man, I don't like how they do that. Just put them in. It seems they do it so quickly after they die, and it just blows my mind. But oh well, they're in at least. So I guess that's a plus. So whatever.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we appreciate you, man. We appreciate your stuff and what you do, and great talking. And
I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I could talk baseball and baseball cards and baseball autographs, baseball memorabilia, golly, for hours and hours and hours and hours. And my wife knows, and she just is flabbergasted, like, why do you care? But hey, it's what I saw it on sportscollectors.net. It's not just a hobby; it's an addiction. So it is what it is.
It also lets us, become kids once again.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
We all need that. The way life, life ain't easy. So like having this, being able to talk about it, going home, looking at, it's always a good feeling, and it keeps us who we are.
You guys keep doing this and keep reaching out to collectors, because it's people want to hear stories. They want to hear it, and y'all, and I appreciate y'all having me, and keep, I love watching y'all's conversations. And like I said, thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated.
Yeah. Keep it up. And if I ever run across any Negro League cards and some Alan Watson cards, I know where to reach out to.
And we'll keep our eye out for your stuff as well too.
Hey, always good talking to you. I'm sure I'll hit you up on Instagram sometime and whatnot. And you guys have a good night. I'm gonna go to sleep. I got to go talk about people that died thousands of years ago tomorrow.
Thanks, man.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.
Thanks, man.